Peace. This is the Ash Your Oldhead podcast with Justice Rajee. 2019 is underway, so I'm starting off the year with just me and the microphone, and giving you, the vision for the year. So the one new wrinkle, the wrinkle that will be featured going forward through the year. The first part is what I'm calling for right now. Leave Movement Monday. Why Movement Monday? Because it seems to be you need to have an alliterative, I don't know if that's the proper terminology, but alliterative or a title that has alliteration and involving Mondays or whatever day you put it out. And people tend to like that. In any event, the name is not that consequential as much as the reality that I want to start out the week giving some kind of direction towards, things of interest. So every week will be a virtue of the week. If you're not familiar with the Virtues Project, there's a link on the post on the blog, and you can hit that and learn more about the Virtues Project. Be a piece of something from the news, a video, a job posting, which will mostly be here locally in Oregon, at least for this year. Maybe I'll post. Maybe I'll go to two, post a local job, post a job somewhere else in the country. That might be a fun wrinkle. And then a piece of financial intelligence, something to think about or to learn. And the bonus, a poll question. Some of this is me learning, testing, probing, figuring out what's interesting to people, what's important, what matters to them. Some of this is also me needing to grow off the lesson that I closed out the previous year with. So there's a Lost Tapes episode that you're probably never going to hear, me closing out 2018. And the reason you're probably not going to hear that episode is that part of that episode was in the midst of me figuring out some pieces around how the year ended with the podcast in terms of some interviews I wanted to have and a learning and investment, I suppose I could call it, opportunity that I did not win at that time, and me looking at those two situations and trying to make a decision around how to feel about it, two, what planning and things that I put in place to be successful in my undertaking in the way that I wanted to be successful. My initial response whenever I don't get something that I want, that I especially think I am ready and able for, is anger. Then with a mix of disappointment, sadness, melancholy even. No, not even melancholy. Melancholy is like being somewhere in the middle, like, meh. It's like, yo, this sucks. And then the other side of it goes to, I'm mad. I should be mad at someone. Then I go, well, I should be mad at myself, because if I didn't get it, it's probably my fault. Which is where I usually land, but then I try not to wallow in the it didn't work out. I try to think, well, what can I do from here to build and improve and get what I want? And the one thing I've always been an advocate of is understanding that you want to start your year strong if you can. Now, I know for many of you, and I think if you think about it from the perspective of if you indulge in the unfettered capitalist outpouring that is Christmas, this is probably not the greatest time to really be starting something. You've run down yourself economically, emotionally, especially if you have challenging family dynamics and or have experienced hard situations at this time of year. You're fighting the cold winds from the north. It's dark outside. A lot of us can be in a surly place this time of year, despite the supposed joyous time of the season. So maybe not the best time to go, I'm going to start something new, or I'm going to begin my year. On the other hand, though, I think the sun measurement situation, with the days getting lighter and brighter each day going forward, does give a certain level of like, hey, every day is new and there's a little more sunshine in each one. And living here in the Pacific Northwest, it really shows up more so than I even remember growing up in New Jersey and living in Pittsburgh for 10 years. And Pittsburgh and Portland are very similar in the gloominess of the winter, but the darkness here is a little bit heavier, I must say. But I always get into planning mode this time of year. And I think years and a year time frame is a nice measurement window for one to assess, set things they want to do, things they want to see accomplished, things they want to change. Now, some things in your life may need much tighter windows. Like, if you addicted to a substance, you might want to measure that in days, right? Even hours. Like, how am I doing? How am I feeling? How am I monitoring? Measuring something maybe a little different, like a fitness goal, you may measure more on every week or every couple of weeks, right? But in any event, the year is a strong measurement bracket as I've experienced it, because you can set a day and you're going to have 365 days, to get back to that day to see, well, here's where I started, here's where I end. So looking at this podcast and my goals and my vision for the work that I wanted to achieve, I realized there's a couple things I have to do this year to hit the marks that I want to hit. Now, if you've been listening to the show, you've probably heard me talk about putting out an episode every week. I have not really achieved that outcome. I have to own that. I have to respect that. As a man, I have to look myself in the face and say, hey, Justice, you said you was going to put an episode out every week. You did not follow through on your word. Your word was not your bond. I got to own that, right? And I know that directly impacts what I'm doing and the community I'm trying to foster, the conversation I'm trying to develop and grow, the learning opportunities, the entertainment and fun opportunities, and other things that are associated with what this how I see this project are all tied to my consistency. So if I'm inconsistent, there it is. You know what I mean? There's no light to be seen, nothing to be given, no words to be heard. So looking at the coming year, one of the things I got to be is I got to hit my own mark. Hence this episode, which will be being released Wednesday, January 9th, the born day in my culture. I'm starting off with a hit. Now, I didn't start on the first Wednesday of the month because I had other stuff going on. This is my first day for the podcast. And my intention, there will be an episode every Wednesday. There may not be an interview this month. And that's just as I'm getting my production schedule laid out, making a much better structure so that I can get the number of episodes that I want in this year. I have to be a lot more structured and I have to be a lot more assertive with people I want to have on the show. Now, it's not all doom and gloom. I think if I counted correctly, I got 15 episodes in last year, or 15 interviews, which is a significant amount of interviewing. If you've never interviewed anyone, you may not understand what I'm talking about. But believe me, it is. So I'm very proud of that. I think the tone and the energy of what I'm trying to do is on point. I think that people that listen to the show, and you can let me know by hitting the poll, which there will be a poll question released with this episode. You can hit me know by hitting the poll. What do you like most about the show, or something of that nature. I think it's all out there to be seen. I think the vision is accurate, is on point. I just got to build it. I got to keep pushing. I got to start the year strong, right? Now, so the virtue for this first week of the month that I pulled with the Movement Monday was self-discipline. Now, I'm going to read you the definition of self-discipline from the virtues card, which I think is accurate. Self-discipline definition. Here it is. Self-discipline means self-control. It is doing what you really want to do rather than being tossed around by your feelings like a leaf in the wind. You act instead of react. You get things done in an orderly and efficient way. With self-discipline, you take charge of yourself. Powerful concept. One that is, at one point, has a depth to it. And another point has a very simple, did you do it to it, right? So, as far as the, in the midst of confusion or challenge, we can sometimes become absorbed by the angst of either a bad decision or something that went wrong or an unexpected outcome or even a minor mistake, and not be sure how do we start to right the ship, how do we start to return to the direction or to reset the bearing in the course that we want to follow and the path we want to follow. I mean, self-discipline just says make that step in the direction that you intended to go, right? Once you make that initial step, that initial movement or play, you are heading now towards your goal. Now you have to be consistent and follow up with all the subsequent steps to get to the outcome. So that's where I'm at with it, and that's the energy, and it's exciting for me thinking about what I'm going to do this year. That's where I'm starting, talking about self-discipline as we're pulling up on MLK, Black History Month, big things are going as I hit March. My birth time and a special project I'll be doing there. Some possible travel with my son. It's just a lot on the menu. I'm building it out. The shirts. I promised a explanation episode. I may or may not do that. I don't know. I did tape it, at least a 1.0 salvo, which if I do release that episode, you'll understand that the part of the tone of that is it's not something I explain in a single piece, because it's a conceptual framework. It's a thinking block around how I see things and what I think is important in the self-development of manhood. Naturally, brings me actually to the key point of starting strong this year that I want to start with. I think I haven't been totally, dancing around it, but I've been reserved a bit in this work, in this process, and what I'm building. And by reserved, I mean that if those who know me well and know me personally know I can be quite assertive about what I think one should be doing. I have not wanted to make this podcast so to speak, me spouting off and giving hot takes. And I'm going to avoid doing that still, because that's not really the vision of the show. The show is not Rajee's weekly hot takes. I do have opinions. I do have viewpoints and perspectives with the hope and the intent of learning. But the piece that I had to grapple with is that I've not been strong in asserting that my intention with this project is exploring manhood and the modern meaning of manhood at the intersection of race, gender, culture, and class. Right? Manhood. What does that mean to me? Manhood as a concept, is a traditional, culturally, traditional concept within the African American community, or I say African, value systems. And I actually had a conversation, was a witness to a conversation today that helped me kind of built on what I actually have been wrestling with the last 2 weeks, and helped me settle on the idea that, I need to be very assertive that's what this is about. It's about self-development. This is about the process by which one goes from boy to man, goes from male, meaning one who may have the physical, equipment and things, what have you, in whatever way that we would associate with being a man or male, to the personified, self-actualized reality of being a man in the vein by which I try to live it, by which it was given to me, which I have taken time to study, to which I see many times, more times than I feel comfortable. I shouldn't say many times, because many times is, if you've not paid attention to my want for us to be conscious when we're using non-specific quantitative language that may impart an idea about the world that is not consistent. Anyway, who we are, how we get here, how do we ensure a healthy transition, how do we develop the mores, the principles, the direction, and the systems, the structure, the learning apparatus that gets us to where more men specifically are in line with a vision and a concept of manhood that does not require objectification of women, unfair power dynamics, abuse. Does not require disregard for the well-being of others. Does not require some level of harm causing in order for one to affirm their status as man. How do we build that? How do we ensure that those values around hard work, that one need to have a dedication to the well-being of your family and your community, that you had a code, are not things that are then are only swooped into this sort of rigid box that doesn't allow for all the beauty that's come out of men that I've benefited from who operated within certain parameters, and they understood those parameters were something, or at least they practice that those parameters help them to do the right thing, right? Pardon me, a very basic definition of righteousness is a consistent commitment to doing the right thing, which is a core principle that sometimes I think we struggle with, generally, not just men. You know, a commitment to righteousness, as I see it, is a commitment to I'm trying to do the right thing, which means I'm trying to evaluate the facts and circumstances of an interaction or a moment to get the best and equitable outcome for everyone involved, whether that be me, the other parties, or what have you. All right, so the right thing. So that's where I'm at with it, man. So we want to start the year strong. So that's why I'm trying to start this episode with a strong position, a strong statement around what I have in store for this year, what I intend to do this year, the interviews that I plan to put down this year, the volume I want to produce at this year. I'm trying to tell you right now, I'm trying to get 2025 men, black men specifically, interviewed this year. That's 2 + 1 per month. So every month that's 2, and one of these months 3. With some, and on top of that, with some, maybe some panel episodes, probably 2 live events. That's what I'm going for, and I'm, hot footing around, trying not to say it, but I'm gonna put it on there right now. My intention is to have some sort of event, a live taping next month. I don't know if it's gonna be some short storytelling piece. I'm gonna do an interview. I gotta fund this bad boy, and part of that can come from doing live events and creating community here where I live, and eventually maybe where you live, and via sales of the merchandise. And also, you can always feel free to cash app a brother if you like what I'm doing. Justice Rajee with the little money sign. That's me. JUSTICERAJEE. You feel so inclined, man, put a 20 on it. This ain't a charitable donation. It's an investment in the art. You know what I'm saying? In the creation and the development of a long with conversation. I'm going on 3 years doing this. And I feel really good about that. I have not broken through to the level that I want, but I will not move away from my goal. I will not step away from my intention and my vision. Now that to me, again, is a part of the starting strong, a part of the commitment to one's own intention. The 2 other aspects to think about with the Monday movement, and my ask would be to you, if you listen to the show, is on Mondays, if you can just make a mental note, let me go to askyouroldhead.com and see what's on the Monday movement. And if you can share in your social networks, share it with wherever if you use the social media, man, send that out. Send it to somebody you think could benefit from what I share on there. A young man trying to figure it out, man, tell him, man, go check out this brother, man. He puts up the Monday movement. Might be something good for you there. That's all I ask. And let's build this thing, because it's as much about my intention and energy as it is those who listen giving feedback and adding on to that, to the cipher, as it were. The other piece on here that I think I want to share, I'll let the movement speak for itself. Look forward to this year, more videos on Instagram, maybe a little bit on Facebook. I might have to engage with the Snapchat in some way. I don't totally know how I feel about Snapchat. Just from brother only got so much time in the day to be jumping on stuff. However, I'm making the commitment to be very assertive and intentional and focused in the development of my goal and my vision, and providing something that I believe is needed, or I think is needed. Believe is a challenging word sometimes. take the best part. In other news, you know what? I'm not even going to make that a part of my conversation today because this is about me. This ain't about that. But I do want to say, all praise and love to the young sister Toya Brown, being released, granted clemency by the governor of Tennessee. That young sister suffered, and I think we all should understand and know that she was in the situation she was in due to violence and mayhem. And I'm just thankful that it appears that the world at some level listened to the cries of the community and cries of people saying this ain't right. And a PSA, a Rajee PSA, if you are one who partakes in such activities, you out here paying for access to minors. Whatever happens to you happens to you. That's all I'm gonna say on that. So, virtue of the week, self-discipline. It's a great video also up of my man, not my man, I call him my man because I like what he's talking about, Curtis Wall Street Carroll. One day I look for the opportunity to talk to that brother when he, probably when he's back here in the free cipher with the rest of us and get more of his story. And I look to us all developing our vision for the year. So my closing statement, as I've sort of ran into the mud a bit for a moment, is take some time if you don't have a process for yourself that you do. If you just go, partying and kicking it on New Year's and then just sort of stumble into the year, and sometime around the end of MLK weekend, you figure out what you're going to do with your life. I mean, it's your life, do what you want. My suggestion would be, take some time this week, do a little recap, man. What did you do in 2018? What did you want? Did you get what did you work on what you wanted to work on? Did you make that job move? Did you take that educational opportunity? Did you call that person? Did you reach out to that individual? Did you check in on that family member? Did you go to that part of the neighborhood? Did you stop those youngins on your block and say something to them? I don't know. You tell me. And then project. What do I want to bring into reality? What do I want to make happen next year? And not, I'm not on the spooky tip. On some, I intend to do this thing, whether that's walking and talking, reading and writing, singing and dancing, cooking and baking, serving, whatever. Get it down on paper. Make a recording for yourself. Put it on a board. And make a commitment to put that on your calendar. Say, I'm going to do this on this day, and I'm going to make that time for that. I'm going to make that a part of my life. And or I'm going to make that move towards this other business endeavor I want to do, or this other adventure I want to go on. I don't know, man. It's not up for me to decide. I'm just telling you, don't be on the bullshit. So, there's that. The push-up challenge is in full effect all month. And you want to add on, man, post you a set, you busting out a set of push-ups, a nice 20 set, nice 10, go to your strength level of 30 if that's where you at with it. Whatever, man, put up a set. Let's see it. And let's make it consistent. It's going to be one up every day on the Instagram. And then we'll see what comes in February and March. For sure, it'll be back. It's going to be every other month, all year. Me and my good brother Nabri, which I encourage you to listen to the Nabri Savior episode, and you'll understand why we're doing what we're doing. Or maybe you won't. I don't know. In any event, I think I'm going to call it a wrap. So, again, self-discipline, start strong, be motivated and engaged. And we're going to hit you next week with another shot. So, thank you for listening. This has been the Ask Your Old Head podcast with Justice Rajee. Peace.